Hey cats, it's your Midsole man, Ed, Superfly Bud here. Today I've got an early look at a new colourway of a shoe that's only just released from Nike, the Vaporfly Next 4. Leaner, meaner, but doesn't come with the shoe bag anymore. Is it worth 240 quid of your hard-earned Earth credits? Let's find out. Thanks for tuning in, people, always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button, but also give this video a thumbs up like too, and drop us a comment to help with the YouTube algorithm. Dankeschön. I got a pair of these via StockX. I'm absolutely certain that they're like legit. I've handled enough Zoomx to be able to tell. Not sure if that's a good thing or not. So no freebie reviews here. Nike haven't sent these to me. You're getting my honest, straight from the heart opinion about it. So this colourway is called Ghost, Blue Void and Persian Violet. Interesting, that's for sure. It kind of looked more grey in the pictures, but in hand it's certainly got a very blue vibe. These are weighing in at 202 grams for my UK 11, US 12. That's about 7.1 ounces if you like that sort of thing. If you compare that to the Vaporfly Next 3 from a couple of years back, that one was 230 grams or 8.1 ounces. So they've shaved off a good ounce here, though there's a little bit less stack across the footbed. There's about 11.8 centimeters of width up front and quite a lean heel section here, only 8.1 centimeters. So it's a bit more narrow in the rear of the shoe, and you certainly can feel that if you're running at slower paces. Not that you're going to really do that in this shoe. It's made to run fast, and that's about it. The Zoomx foam we've got here in the midsole does have quite a thick paint layer on top of it, though it feels pretty much like all the rest of the Zoomx you get in like the Alphafly 3 or previous versions of the Vaporfly. I'm not going to saw the shoe in half or anything because I find it a bit weird when people do that. You don't wear half the shoe, you wear the whole shoe, and it's how it feels under your foot that really counts. Those durometer scores are just numbers at the end of the day. In terms of the stack, I've got 39 millimeters of heel stack. That's about what I expected really when I saw that Nike said it was going to be a 35 or 36 millimeter heel stack here. So it's about 3 millimeters more than the sample size at least. Now remember that shoes do scale, so bigger size, bigger shoe, okay? The forefoot's got about 33 millimeters of heel stack. So it's about a 6mm drop. It certainly does feel like that on foot. Doesn't feel quite as aggressive as some of the previous versions. I guess it's closer to something like the Metaspeed Sky Paris from Asics or the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3. I paid retail for these actually. They were just sat there and I managed to get them for exactly what you would pay if you pick them up on the Nike website. We will start with the upper first. Upper wise, actually quite constrictive in the toe box, which I quite like because the Vaporfly Next 3 was very generous in the toe box. I had a lot of bunching there. I don't have that here in the Vaporfly Next 4. Rather easy to achieve a good lockdown here, though I don't like the laces. They're quite coarse and there's absolutely no give to them whatsoever. Why Nike have gone with these rather than those great serrated laces that we've had in the past, I don't know. The upper here is quite reminiscent of a sort of slat-like nature. Reminds me of the Vaporfly Next 2. That was a great upper, in fact. I really enjoyed that one. The tongue, very thin. There's not a lot of padding here whatsoever. I haven't found there's too much lace pressure up here in the sort of business end, though I did notice a little bit of tongue slide towards the front of the shoe after my initial runs. It's certainly a light upper, very, very breathable, and that is very welcome right now. We've got some very warm temperatures here in the UK. You got that typical Vaporfly padding around the heel area here to protect the Achilles a little bit. A few people mentioned that they had some heel slip in these. With a runner's knot, I got none of that. Maybe their free pairs weren't the correct size. Who knows? So toe box far less roomy than the Vaporfly 3. Decent height to it though. It does feel like a race shoe again now, where the last version didn't feel like that to me. Harks back actually to the Vaporfly 4%. Or maybe even the original Next %. There's no overlays at all. This is just sort of painted on. They've tried to minimise the weight everywhere they can on this shoe. Decent lace length, and overall I think the upper's pretty decent. One of the best bits of the shoe, in fact. I'll give it a 2.9 out of 3 for the upper so far. Just poor laces and a little bit of tongue slide, but nothing major. Midsole. Midsole.
Midsole now.
So you certainly got the Zoomx feel in this shoe. It's kind of that strange, brittle, hollow kind of vibe. Very squashy, very compressive and quick to return to form. Do quite like the beveled edge to the heel. Reminds me of the Vaporfly 3, and that's one of my favourite shoes, you know. Again, I've not got far off 40mm here. There's tons of stack. And where you've got this hollowed out section to the midsole, it does provide that sort of trampoline-like feel. If you're landing on the midfoot, kind of squashes and then pushes you forward. Wouldn't say it's the most aggressive of the racers out there. Certainly doesn't feel quite as bouncy and exciting as something like the Metaspeed Sky Paris. The forefoot feels quite nice. You've got a significant amount of foam here, and there's some decent width to it too. Doesn't feel too controlling, I suppose, like the Metaspeed Edge Paris. I didn't really find the Vaporfly 3 all that exciting to run in. This one feels a bit more nimble and a bit more up for it. I think that's perhaps down to the weight. Does bring back the fun feel again as the Vaporfly. I think if you were quite dainty with your shoes, you might be able to utilise this one on a more daily basis. Not saying it's a daily shoe by any stretch. Does feel a bit more like that original Vaporfly, only this time you got a little bit more stack under the forefoot. There's only a small difference in terms of that stack over the last version of the shoe, but I think where they've hollowed it out, it just feels a bit more exciting to run in again. Felt a bit dense last time. In fact, this feels a little bit more like the back rear section of the Vaporfly 3, obviously without those air units up front. And strangely, where they've got this kind of channel, it seems to actually stabilise the heel a little bit more than it first appears. You've got two sections of foam there, two pillars to sort of absorb the impact, and it's just a little bit more conforming then in a more universal sort of way. I mean, the landing platform at the front of the shoe here is pretty significant. It's kind of weird that they're saying it's the original Super shoe when it's actually quite different in terms of stack to that. It is a little bit like the Vaporfly 4% original meets the Next percent, rather than anything like the AirPod feel that you get in the Vaporfly 3. Feels like it wants to go quickly. It does enable a nice fast turnover, that's for sure, due to the weight. I mean, it is one of the lightest options out there right now if you want a race shoe. You know, 200 grams or whatever it is for my size is amazing, really. I think Nike are clearly trying to differentiate between this shoe and the Vaporfly 3, so there's a different sort of vibe, a reason for both to exist, I suppose. I think the large number of Vaporfly 3 colourways that are out there right now tells you all you need to know about that shoe. I found at 5k pace or even 10k pace, these are smashing. Light and nimble, easy to go up through the gears, though I think for all but the lighter folks out there, they may be leaning towards the Vaporfly 3 for a marathon. Probably be okay for a half in these, but for some people it's just not going to be quite enough for the full Snickers, and the Vaporfly 3's got that covered. I'll give it a 2.7 out of 3 for the midsole. Outsole wise, I'm really pleased to see some decent rubber coverage up front here in the forefoot. It's flat, it's quite simple. I do like these sort of stretched waffle lugs that we've got. It spans the whole width of the shoe up here. And in the rear, we've got a couple of pieces here, and they're doing a decent job so far to protect that foam. Though I do already have some paint peeling off here, which is typical really for any of those Zoomx race shoes. Any that you've ever tried out, you just see this almost straight away. In fact, I've seen people completely destroy a pair of like Vaporfly 3s after one race, like a half marathon or something. So I'm not surprised to see this, but it tends to kind of even out after a little while. So at 10 miles, bit of early wear there, it's gonna happen, okay, so be prepared. I found the grip actually pretty decent, especially on turns and cornering. If you're on some camber that I would suggest is a bit uneven, this type of shoe's always gonna be a bit of a dangerous one. I've got a reasonably neutral foot strike, and even I found that there's a little risk here of turning your ankle if you're not careful due to the softness here in the heel and that narrow nature. In that toe-off area, I'm starting to get a little bit of wear on the rubber already. So you pays your money, you takes your chance with Nike. Sometimes their rubber just isn't the same in terms of durability as some of the other competitors these days, especially somebody like Puma or Adidas. And it might be in the reasonably near future you're going to be paying a bit of a extra uplift on these. I mean, there is already at 240. It's 20 quid more than the Adios Pro 4 or the Metaspeed Sky Paris. So in terms of outsole, performed well so far. You're just going to get a lot of wear and it's going to happen quickly. I'll give it a 2.8 out of 3 for the outsole. Good traction, but early wear in the heel. Value now. At 240 quid, I think Nike, you got to be kidding. The other brands have stolen the show again there. 220 notes, or even lower in fact, for the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3. You've got to bring something new to the table to really win back some of those fans, not charge them 20 quid more for less stack. It might be a lighter shoe, but is that what everybody wants or cares about for the marathon? I would suggest the answer is no. If you're buying a race shoe, you kind of want to be able to use it for everything. I think that does relegate this one to 5k through the half marathon for me. Certainly wouldn't be my choice to take to the Manchester Marathon at the end of this month. Just feel it's a bit overpriced. It's kind of somewhere towards the Takumi Sen, and because of that, I'm going to give it a 2.6 out of 3 for value. It just doesn't cover as many bases as it did before. It's a bit of a strange iteration, this one. I can understand that Nike are trying to differentiate this shoe, or the Vaporfly line, between it and the Alphafly, but by removing a bit of the heel stack, yeah, you've made a nice, light, nimble shoe, but it's a bit of a gamble. Is that going to put people off picking these up for their marathon? Only time will tell, I guess. If I've told the scores out correctly, that gives us 11 out of 12 for the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 4 after my initial runs. Have you picked up a pair of these over in America? Have you managed to get lucky and get one of the proto pairs that have recently released in the UK? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on this new update to the Vaporfly series down in the comments. A quick musical interlude for you. Not a lot of people have heard of Johnny Rivers, a really fantastic vocalist and great guitar player. He had the knack of selecting certain songs by other artists and then kind of doing better versions of them, really. One of my favourite albums from Johnny Rivers is Live at the Whiskey A Go Go. I think it was probably in the 60s sometime. It kicks off with a brilliant version of the Chuck Berry classic Memphis, Tennessee. Johnny Rivers got a beautiful voice. It just really fits the track, and it's got that swinging 60s vibe in there. You could almost imagine Austin Powers wearing his special suit, like boogieing around some of the tracks. There's loads of crowd noise in there as well. They must have had some mics up around the place, and it really does add to the atmosphere of this live album. Sometimes live albums can be a bit like overproduced, a bit like cheesy and stuff, but this one sounds great. They've set it to record and just let the band do their stuff. Just had a really cool way of getting a song and putting his stamp on it, and it just sounded like, you know, he kind of made the song, I suppose. Good guitar player too, some really great little riffs and licks here and there to add some spice to the tunes. Go and check it out, people. Johnny Rivers live at the Whiskey A Go Go. Thanks for tuning in, people. Hope you enjoyed this Vaporfly Next Percent 4 review. Hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up like. Drop us a comment as well to help with that YouTube algorithm. My name's Eddbud, and I'll be seeing you